See, it's nights like this that reminds you that WWE could be really fucking awesome when they want to. And yes, we are on the road to one of the big 4 pay-per-views, and this is why this is happening. But it just goes to show you how much of a lull that they have been in. I mean, yes, we got SmackDown guys and Raw guys on the same brand. And yeah, Survivor Series is one of the big 4. All we can do at this point now is hope for the fact that we're in the middle of November. So right after Survivor Series, you have John Cena's retirement match. Then we have the road to the Royal Rumble. Then we have Elimination Chamber. Then you have the road to WrestleMania. And mixed in with all of that are WWE touring overseas. And they up those cards a little bit more for a lot of those areas. And I honestly think overall between now and WrestleMania, it's going, what's been transpiring the last 6 months as far as Raw and SmackDown have been going, I think it'll be a distant memory. Unfortunately, once we get past SummerSlam next year, things start to get into the lull again. And, you know, you look at previous years, that's been the formula more times than not. You can't have cake and ice cream every month over and over and over, because then you get burned out and then you creatively get yourself in a pretty big rut. So it's kind of cool to see how everything went down at Madison Square Garden tonight. And we'll get into it. We got some wrestling news to get into as well. Gotta get into couple of fake news tidbits that is pretty humorous when you look back at it. I want to welcome everyone. It's Monday night, November 17, 2025. I just want to thank everyone for the well wishes. Friday, I did go in and get 3 of my 4 procedures done. Unfortunately, without getting to a whole song and a dance about it, the tumor is in a bad spot, and they could not remove it. So I have to go back probably in about a month or 2 to start looking into getting that surgically done separately. But everything else was done, and I'm still very, very sore. Still got this ugly patch on my midsection where they went in for hernia and other shit, but we're good. We're good. Been doing a lot of resting and relaxing this weekend. So I'll give you as good of a show as I possibly can tonight. Don't know how long it's going to go because I haven't been sitting up for long periods of time. The history show is online. I actually recorded all of my clips prior to Friday, but over the weekend, late Friday night into Saturday, I just spliced everything together and put it online. So, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I will tell you this. I know it's not a major story, but, you know, I take pride in clearing up fake news. It kind of annoys me when fake news just sits around for years. And it was not a big deal, but it's kind of amazing to realize all of those reports, the TikTok videos, the even AI. As of right now, AI still has it wrong, you know, about Becky Lynch with Celebrity Jeopardy. It's kind of amazing how viral that went, that she broke a record, got every question wrong, 60 clues, didn't answer one right other than the final Jeopardy round. And it turns out it's fake news. And it's unbelievable that no one cleared it up. I mean, not even she did, you know, but in case anybody wants a little sneak peek, if you remember her appearance in Celebrity Jeopardy a couple of years ago, and again, everybody went viral. I mean, this shit went viral that she made history in Jeopardy, didn't get one clue right. And then I find this.
Let's go with the butt one for 300.
The butt one. This synonym for butt is also a term for the last car on a train. Mac.
What is caboose?
Yes.
More butt, please.
A synonym for butt, it's also an unclean animal, according to the King James Bible. Becky.
What is ass?
That is correct, yes.
What is ass? What is ass?
Unbelievable, right? Lots of fake news. I tell you, the David Otunga, man, Christmas comes early for the Donzilla Army because we've been ripping the shit out of David Otunga, doing his best to try to, become like a busted open meets Maven type of social media celebrity. And did you see what he did on TMZ this weekend? Totally disgusting, but we'll get into that a little bit later. That's not the big news. We got a lot of stuff to get into. But I will say this before I get into news first. We've been riding the Dominik Mysterio bandwagon for quite some time now. And it's pretty obvious that this guy is going to be a fucking major baby face in the future. I don't know if anybody's taken a step back and thought about it, but Dominik Mysterio gets the privilege of wrestling 3 out of the last 4 matches that John Cena ever has. Think about that. On Wednesday's news update, we talked about Dominik Mysterio getting a rematch against John Cena. And doesn't it make sense now? Doesn't it make sense? I know we talked about it Wednesday and no one else did. But, when you realize Survivor Series, where it's taken place, San Diego, California, that's Dominik's home turf. I shouldn't say hometown, his home turf. So wouldn't that be the ultimate stage for him to win the Intercontinental Championship back from John Cena in San Diego, California at Survivor Series, John Cena's next to last match? Because I will continue saying what I've been saying for about 6 months now. There should be no titles on the line between John Cena and Gunther. This should not be a case where John Cena retires as a champion and then you do another bullshit tournament. I don't think you have Gunther getting the Intercontinental Championship back. I know his gimmick is he's had gold for 77% of the time he's been on the main roster or he's been employed with WWE, but there should be no titles on the line there. So, we were one of very few on Wednesday that said that Dominik would get the rematch. I did not think that Dominik would also be involved in a 6-man tag tonight with Cena as well. Fun night, man. Really fun night to watch Raw. And you know what? I know. You look back at the Women's Intercontinental Championship. You look at the Women's United States Championship. And I know this might be more controversial years back if we would throw this out there, but sure feels like those 2 belts were created just try to even out the playing field, that the men and the women have almost the same number of belts. And WWE has not treated the Intercontinental Championship and the United States Championship with the same, I don't want to even say respect, but it just feels like they're there to give some women an additional opportunity to gun for something. You look at, and we talked about this, with Julia. You look back at Julia and her level of performance. I honestly think since they've debuted the IC Championship and the United States Championship for the women, I think the one who has had the best run of them all is Lyra Valkyria. And I don't even think it's close. I mean, Becky Lynch, did a decent job with it as well. I'm not saying that the women haven't done a good job, but I think Lyra Valkyria has done the best of them all. But with that said, underdogs should win once in a while. That's what our memories are for. You think back, and I'm just going to throw a random one out there. Remember when the 1-2-3 Kid beat Razor Ramon? If the 1-2-3 Kid wasn't such a jobber at the time, no one would be talking about it to this day. Once in a while, there is absolutely nothing wrong with an underdog to get a victory. And you know what? Maxxine Dupri, you could see how choked up she was when she won that championship. I even think it's a little bit disrespectful by some of the news media tonight saying that Maxxine Dupri defeated Becky Lynch with help from AJ Lee. That's not necessarily true. All AJ Lee did was come down to ringside and just stare at Becky Lynch. She didn't get into the ring. She didn't hit her with anything. All she did was show up. Maxxine Dupri, earned the opportunity to face Becky Lynch. And yes, is she the most polished person? No. Makes you wonder who is going to be the one to dethrone her sooner than later. But she has worked very hard. And I'll tell you, one of the things that was going through Maxxine Dupri's head as she was on that rampway, holding that championship up next to AJ Lee, what had to be running through her mind was that infamous house show when everybody made it such a major news story because fans were heckling her. You suck, Maxxine. And I felt bad for Maxxine at that time. And if you go back and you listen to the episode that we did that week, I felt bad for her. But I also said that sticks and stones may break your bones, but names should never hurt you unless they're really racist or sexist or homophobic. You're a wrestler. People are going to, rag you. Sometimes they do it because they really mean what they're saying. Sometimes they do it to troll you. Sometimes they do it to try to break you. But to turn around and to try to, expose people because they were saying, you suck, Maxxine. I mean, how fragile are we getting? I mean, as much as I felt bad for her and as much as I wouldn't be a dick like that, I didn't really see much wrong in fans doing that. But guess what? I think it's moments like that is what led to what happened tonight at Madison Square Garden. I truly believe that. So I'm happy for her. I'm very, very happy that she won the championship. When she made the comment that she says that she now belongs, true words cannot be told. So I'm very, very happy for Maxxine Dupri. Now, let her enjoy it for 2-3 weeks and that's it. She's still the Akira Tozawa in the women's division, if we're being honest, just much more beautiful. So, let's get into a couple other things. I think this is probably a topic of discussion that we can mention right at the beginning because part of it had to do with Monday Night Raw tonight. We pretty much have now the 16 participants in this John Cena final shot tournament. And, the two surprises ended up being Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler. Yes, they go by their WWE names because WWE owns those characters. They own those trademarks. In return, new Zack Ryder merchandise is on sale for the WWE. In return, new Dolph Ziggler merchandise is on sale in the WWE. Yes, they will get a cut of it. No, there will not be a plethora of that merchandise. No, it does not seem that they will be back on a regular basis. I don't know what Nick Nemeth's contract situation is. Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, I think a totally different story. But I want to share with you quickly a quick clip that Zack Ryder posted on social media Friday night. And I want everybody to just hear this for a second because I got to be honest with you. I don't know how authentic this is. And I'm not saying that Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona is a liar, but you look at Matt Cardona's last 5 years of what he has done. He has reinvented himself. It's fucking amazing that he could still call himself a death match champion and he's only had one death match. Only one. Everybody thinks he's had all these different hardcore. He only had one. And it stuck. But you ask yourself, when he was let go from the WWE 5 years ago, do you think these entire 5 years, all he wanted to do is come back? I agree. I think he wants to come back now even more because his wife is there. But, do we think that Zack Ryder has not had a successful run the last 5 years? Do we not believe that Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona probably made more money on the indie circuit the last 5 years? Because that is true. And I ask you, when you hear Matt Cardona say what I'm about to share, does that kind of take a little shot at all of the work he's done and all of the promotions that have been using him repeatedly over the last couple of years? Because, you would think that, okay, it was a burn that he got let go, but he took chicken shit and turned it into chicken salad. And now, after all of the work and what he's been doing for 5 years, you hear coming out of his mouth like, all I wanted to do the last 5 years is go back to WWE. Is that come off a little bit disrespectful for what he's done and the promotions he's worked for? Or do you think, hey, at the end of the day, this is what he always wanted to do?
5 years. It's been 5 years since I put on Zack Ryder boots. Every single morning, the first thing I do before I even open my damn eyes is say, how can I get back here? What do I have to do to get back here? I busted my ass for the past 5 years. Deathmatch King, Indie God, the complete, all for this moment. This might be a one-time shot. I might get the call tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Because I'm Zack Ryder. I'm always ready. And I guess I could say this. Woo, woo, woo. You know it. I don't know if this is a welcome back or if this is a see you later. But all I can say is, yeah, good stuff.
I don't know how you feel about that, everybody. I expect Nick Nemeth to also make a comment. I have a feeling his comment is going to be a little bit different because Nick Nemeth has gone on to become world champion in numerous territories. He's main evented promotions that you never thought he would main event. So, we'll definitely hear from Nick Nemeth shortly, but that's Matt Cardona's comments. Do I think WWE will rehire him? Why not? Why not? I'll tell you the truth. What you didn't hear on that clip was about 30 seconds of him face-to-face with LA Knight. And the only reason why I didn't include that in there is because there was a pause for about 10 seconds. And, you hear LA Knight and you really can't, you probably wouldn't figure it out. It's him. But I tell you, looking at LA Knight and Zack Ryder next to each other, I think they'd be a pretty damn good tag team. They're both immensely in shape. They're both very charismatic. And that might be a little bit of a spark that LA Knight could use right now because he's not winning a world championship. He's lost in the shuffle, pretty obvious. And maybe him and Zack Ryder would be a pretty interesting tag team. So just throwing it out there. I don't know how you all feel about it. So I will say one other thing. We'll get into news and then we'll get back to Raw a little bit later. I think the only issue I had with Nick Nemeth tonight, it was a stark reminder of what WWE has done for, I don't want to say decades, because it doesn't happen often, but you notice, and I think we all notice. I get what some people are going to say almost immediately. DT, you're not going to have your main roster regular and Solo Sikoa doing a job for someone that's not even employed for the company. I get it. That makes total sense. But do you ever truly recall a time where someone came back for an appearance, a cameo or something, and, got that upset victory? And I think Madison Square Garden, by far, there would have been absolutely nothing wrong with Nick Nemeth defeating Solo Sikoa. Would Solo Sikoa have been buried because of it? Absolutely not. Could we have maybe, if Nick Nemeth would have advanced, wouldn't that have been awesome to have Gunther versus Nick fucking Nemeth? I think that would have been pretty damn awesome. And we watched that tonight, and the one thing that just annoyed me is, when he hit the zigzag, Solo Sikoa just had his head crack on the ring post. And Dolph Ziggler hit an amazing zigzag on Solo Sikoa. And we get that suspension of disbelief that when someone gets older or someone hasn't been around for a while, that their moves are not as effective. You know, if someone is regular in the WWE, the zigzag would knock anybody out at any given point. But the WWE's always had that stigma that a wrestler gets a little bit older and could still nail the finisher as beautiful as they possibly could. And now wrestlers kick out with no problem. And that's what happened tonight with Solo Sikoa. I remember when they brought back Jake the Snake Roberts, you know, he would hit a couple of unbelievable DDTs and wrestlers would kick out of it. You always had wrestlers, as they get older, they hit their finisher, and then for some reason it doesn't hurt as much. It doesn't knock someone out. I get it if you're weaker and the move looks weaker. Yeah, absolutely. But Dolph Ziggler hits the zigzag, and because he's a TNA guy and he's not back on the WWE roster and it's Solo Sikoa, yeah, Solo Sikoa kicks out. And then Solo Sikoa hits the spike and the rest is history. Now, if I had to complain about anything tonight, that's the only thing I could complain about. But we'll get into Brock Lesnar. We'll get into Roman Reigns. We'll get into what appears to be this final card now. They may add one additional match to it, but I want to get into some quick wrestling news. Don't have a boatload to get into, but enough that we do need to cover a few things. First of all, I wasn't even going to put this at the beginning of the show, but I have to. You probably don't know this yet. Ariel Helwani, Monday night late, posted an announcement that on Tuesday afternoon, he is going to have not only for an interview, but in his fucking studio, Tony Khan. Let that sink in for a minute. Whether you like AEW or you don't, whether you like Tony Khan or you despise him, whether you like making fun of him or you compliment him, just think about what went down last time. And not only are they going to have a second interview, but Tony Khan is going to be in fucking studio. What is going to happen? I expect Ariel Helwani to apologize that, you know, for his comments after the interview. Remember when he said it was the most frustrating interview and he said he had, you know, if he ever released the footage and all that. I expect Ariel Helwani to cave in and apologize early on. I think even Tony Khan may apologize for a little bit as well. I just hope Tony Khan doesn't do the, you know, I really couldn't talk about, you know, legal stuff and everything like that, because there was no legal stuff. There was no outside investigation. We never ever believed that. And I also hope that we don't get the diversion to watch Dynamite, diversion to watch Collision and all this stuff. It's going to be really interesting to see how this goes down. I think this is probably the most important interview that Tony Khan has done since AEW has started, because this could be, and listen, I'm not trying to be cold when I say this. You know my feelings about Tony Khan. He absolutely beloves wrestling. He is a wrestling fan. He is a 40-something-year-old child with billions of dollars. It doesn't have a family to spend it on, so he spends it on his hobbies. And we get to benefit as a result from it. And what I'm saying now is the very, very respectful view that I have of Tony Khan. And that's what he is, all right? And I also feel that just because he's going back to Ariel Helwani doesn't mean that he suddenly matures. You know, to me, this is still a kid in a 40-something-year-old body. So here is where it could be a turning point where Tony Khan shows a little bit more, not only maturity, but a little bit of humility as well. And it's going to be really, really fascinating. I hope this doesn't turn into a train wreck. Who are we kidding? We definitely want it to be a train wreck. But truthfully, I hope that it's not, because I think this could be a little bit of a turning point for Tony Khan. We will know in less than 24 hours. So Wednesday, when I do the news update, we will definitely, I'll give you my thoughts on it. So definitely something to look out for. But a couple of deaths and a couple of medical things, good and bad. Rest in peace, Bob Caudle. Just one of the greatest wrestling announcers that probably younger wrestling fans never paid attention to. He died over the weekend at the age of 95 years old. I'm hoping to live to be 75 or 65, and this guy lived to be 95 years old. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and read you a Wikipedia resume because everybody and their mother is going to do that. But if you go back to NWA, you go back to Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, if you go back to WCW, for me, my favorite will always be Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And I'm not going to play the clip live for everyone. I'll splice it in later. But my favorite, in fact, what I'll do is for everybody live, I'll put the clip in the chat room so you can watch it at your leisure. But, you know, one of my favorite interviews that Bob Caudle ever did in Smoky Mountain Wrestling is when New Jack and Mustafa debuted as the Gangsters. And they won a squash match against Chris Hamrick, and I can't remember who else it was. And they're cutting a promo. Now, you got to keep in mind, Smoky Mountain Wrestling is down in the South. So New Jack and Mustafa, they're playing the race card. I mean, really nuclear. And they're talking about they don't like none of these white people here. He shouts out Louis Farrakhan. He shouts out fucking O.J. Simpson. Keep in mind, this interview was done in the summer of 1994, right after O.J. Simpson killed Nicole Brown and her male friend. I can't remember his name right now. Oh, Ronald Goldman. So you can only imagine. And here's Bob Caudle, like the whitest of the white, interviewing New Jack and Mustafa Saeed. And it was just amazing. It was amazing to see this all go down.
Here they are. We get our first opportunity to talk to them. The new tag team on the block of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Impressive they are, the Gangsters. New Jack.
Let me tell you something. 30 years ago, we would have been strung up in somebody's tree, getting hung for beating two white boys the way we just did. But now, you might want to come out here and put some belts on us, but the only belts we going to be wearing around here is the tag team belt. Let me tell you something. I don't like being up here. I was getting out of my car, I slipped and fell in some tobacco spit. And you know what I'm saying? Nothing but rednecks up here. Nothing but geeks up here. Nothing but coal miners up here. Chicken farmers, Klansmen. I don't like nobody but my partner. You understand? I don't care who you line up in front of me. I'm going to show you how bad New Jack and Mustafa is. You want to talk about violence? Violence to you might be putting somebody in a figure four. Violence to me is taking a can of gas and pouring it on you and setting you on fire. Like me or not, I didn't come up here to be liked. I came up here to get paid. And whoever you put in front of me, I'm going to drop you down. I'd like to send a special shout out to my homeboy, O.J. Simpson. Keep up the good work, baby. Two less we got to worry about. You understand? Keep up the good work. Louis Farrakhan will be the next president. Yeah. Snoop Dogg, we know you're innocent. You called me last night. You understand? Get ready, Smoky Mountain, because we're going to set this place on fire.
All right, fans, there they are. The team to be heard from in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. New Jack, Mustafa Saeed, the Gangsters. We'll be back right after this.
He lived to be 95 years old. And what an awesome career. And I tell you, you know how probably a lot of you younger fans out there will recognize his voice for Ric Flair's last match. If you remember Ric Flair's last match, they actually used a couple of sound clips of his. So, but he suffered a pair of heart attacks about 15, 17 years ago, and he recovered. I mean, this guy, you just could not put him down. So rest in peace, man. Rest in peace. Another death that I wanted to report because I actually have a personal story with this. George Dehinos passed away at 63 years old. A lot of you out there probably never heard of that name. If you Google him, you will be fascinated with his work. When it comes to wrestling photography here in the Northeast, yeah, everybody thinks about Paul Heyman when he was doing photography in the late 70s, early 80s, whatever the time period it was. But no. As far as me growing up as a wrestling fan, especially when ECW came around, my two favorite photographers with Bill Apter and George Tahinos. And I didn't even know who George was until I started looking at the magazines and started seeing all of his work. That guy was in and around ECW, old school WWF, WCW, TNA. Motherfucker actually did AEW not too long ago. And he covered, I think, the TNA Hall of Fame this year. This guy, he was only 63 years old, so it's not like he was doing photography into his 80s and 90s. He died of a heart attack, and he was not in any poor health as far as we know. But this guy is all over the map, and he has a website. And I don't have the link offhand, but if you Google it, he has his entire catalog of photographic work. And when you see his stuff from ECW going back to the 90s, you will see thousands of pictures that are fucking amazing. That, he's just sitting there. Yes, you have to pay if you want to, get a download without a watermark or anything. But some of the photos you will see are iconic. And here's a little personal interaction that I had with him. Back in 2002, when I started working for XPW, right before they had their first ever show in the ECW arena, the big controversy in 2002 was that XPW rented out, they had a lease agreement with the ECW arena. As a result, no other wrestling promotion could wrestle in the ECW arena. So pretty much Ring of Honor was not allowed in that building. 3PW that Judgement St. Clair ran was not allowed in that building. Combat Zone Wrestling, oh, no fucking way. And the Northeast was livid over XPW, and Rob Black actually renamed the building the XPW Arena. And I don't remember the landlord's son. I actually became friends with him back then. Can't remember his name right now, but I remember when he said, as long as they motherfucking pay us, you can name it whatever arena you want. But this was very, very controversial at the time. A lot of you may remember PWBTS.com, which I think is still in existence. Bob McGee, that is one of the rare people that I wouldn't have shed a tear if he died back in the day, because this guy was the biggest scumbag around. That guy was putting flyers on people's mailboxes in Philadelphia saying that porn is coming to your neighborhood. I mean, they did everything they possibly could to shut it down. And me, look, I never liked Rob Black. I mean, I know where they came from, what they did. And at that time, Messiah's, missing little fingers still was fresh in everybody's mind. But at the end of the day, there was a lot of good people and a lot of wrestlers that were just trying to make a living and wrestle and have fun. And there was a lot of very good people in that company. And you saw that, these people trying to do everything they could to, just shut it down. So I was doing the bus trips at the time. And for their first ever show, Hostile Takeover, they wanted photographers. So XPW wanted to get Bill Apter and they wanted to get George Tahinos. And the funny thing about it was, I think it was Slash that had told me. He's like, do you have any idea, like, anybody who could, like, do some photography for Hostile Takeover? George Tahinos turned it down. And the reason why he turned it down, he was very, very polite about it, but the reason why he turned it down was because he was very loyal to ECW. And ECW was out of business already for a year. But because of his history with ECW and his love for Paul Heyman and Todd Gordon and everybody in that company, that he would not disrespect ECW's legacy by doing photography for XPW. So he turned it down. So what ended up happening was Bill Apter was there and Blackjack Brown. That is a guy that not only was the hotline guy, he was a photographer as well. Blackjack Brown almost got me into the 900 circuit at that time. And I regret not doing it because Lord knows how much money I would have made. He tried to get me doing the 900 number, and he had Blackjack Brown's hotline. He did the article in the New York Daily News every week. So that first ever Hostile Takeover, if you ever watch the video, the XPW's Hostile Takeover, you'll see me at the commentators table But if you look around ringside, you'll see Blackjack Brown and I think Bill Apter did a little bit of photography as well that night. But George Tahinos was supposed to be there as well, and he turned it down. He would not do any photography for XPW. So we wanted him for USA Pro Wrestling, but the Mass Maniac never thought, it was worth the cost, because George Tahinos was a big-time professional, and he was not cheap, but he was not expensive either. I don't remember what his asking price was, but I remember when I told the Mass Maniac, he's like, I ain't fucking spending that kind of money on a photographer. He's like, we got plenty of photographers. So, rest in peace, George Tahinos. You'll see a lot of wrestlers in the Northeast paying tribute to that man. 63 years old. Keep in your prayers Rebel from AEW. It's no secret when she was around in AEW with Britt Baker, I could not stand her. I thought she was worse than a potted plant, because at least a potted plant doesn't move around. You just you have a potted plant that just has no worth to it. You just look at it and it's it's not doing anything. Rebel would just get really on my nerves. Nothing personal. I just never liked the character, but she is battling some serious, serious health issues. And, it's more serious than you think. She's got pulmonary lymphoma, which is cancer of the lungs. And she not only has that, she's got some type of neurological disorder that's affecting her walking. She has to use a walker. She has to use a cane. She can't even talk as good as she used to. And her hand is all, fucked up. She's got an infection right now. If you read what she wrote, it's awful. But if you watch the video, I'm not kidding, man. It really shed a tear to my eye. Because if you watch the video of Rebel, and I guarantee you some of you will agree when I say this, she's sad. She's crying. She's scared, obviously. But what was so sad about it is, you look at her surroundings. She's obviously in her house, but you look at the surroundings and it's just empty. I would have wished she would have done it in a room that had loads of photos and things on the mantle. And, it was just an empty white room. And you just see her just sitting there and sobbing and telling everybody what's going on. And you just see the surroundings she was alone. And it was really, really fucking sad, man. I'm not kidding when I say this. The last time that I really felt like this for someone who was dealing with big time health issues was Daphne. And I'm not even talking about the night that everything went down, months before. When she was dealing not only with the headaches and the other things, but, she had that awful eating disorder, the eating disorder. And trust me, I've been there. I mean, a lot of you have seen the pictures of me when I was 360 pounds. It's not fun to have an eating disorder, but, food can be very, very comforting, because it doesn't talk back at you. It doesn't curse you out. It doesn't cheat on you. It doesn't stab you in the back. It doesn't, it's your friend. I remember, how sad that she got and how embarrassed she got. She didn't even want to do wrestling conventions. She would love to be around her friends, but she was just so embarrassed that the Scream Queen, got as big as she was. And, you get to a point where there's not much you could do about it. It's terrible. I'm not kidding when I say this, but the last time I felt like that watching this Rebel video was Daphne. And, I hope that there's some miraculous way that Rebel could overcome some of this and have some type of a normal life. So just thoughts and prayers are with her, man. Some more uplifting news. We have a engagement, and we also have a new mother. First of all, congratulations to Indy Hartwell. She got engaged. There's a whole bunch of pictures online. I'm going to share some of them on the channel members version. By the way, the channel members version might be a little bit late on Tuesday because, I'm still not just playing catch up, but I don't know how much I can go, just sitting up wise. because not only did they fix a hernia, but they also did a biopsy of my abdominal area. They had to, take, it's all complicated. I'm not getting into it today, but I'm just really fucking sore. But she and her partner, I think her name is Lizette, is pretty funny how she proposed. She actually had like a can of Coke Zero, my favorite diet soda, by the way. And right underneath it said, "Will you marry me?" It was pretty cool. And I guarantee there's a lot of you out there that probably don't even know that Indy Hartwell she's gay. So, but cute couple, definitely cute couple, and very, very happy for her. And also congratulations to Tori Wilson. Now, I'll be honest with you, I did not find anything to support this, so we can only speculate. But she is now a mom. And you're probably going to say to me, holy shit, I didn't even know she was pregnant. No, she was not pregnant. She is now, she's a surrogate mother. She adopted a baby, and the baby, they have named the baby, it's a she, it's Poppy, Poppi, Poppy Wilson Tupper. Like Tupperware, just without the wear at the end. And she became a surrogate mother. I think this was like a few months in the making. She just, kept it quiet. But the thing is I don't know if Tori Wilson had a medical condition that made it complicated to have children. She's not extremely old, so I'm sure she could still have children. And I don't think this was a case where Tori Wilson just was lazy about having a kid. So she obviously, her and her husband wanted to adopt, and they did. So congratulations to Tori Wilson. There's a picture of her and her husband online. I don't have it in this computer, but you definitely want to Google it. Let me just put it this way. You remember when Tori Wilson dated Alex Rodriguez? If you look at her husband now, you'll say to yourself, "Ooh, okay, that's different." The best way I could describe him is he looks like a doctor, just like a nerdy doctor that you never in a million years would ever think that Tori Wilson, a fitness model, would go for. But they look cute together. But when you look at them, there's definitely some of you out there to be like, you know what? I definitely have a shot then against the supermodel when I get older, because you would never think that those two would ever pair up. So congrats. All right. Yeah, you know what? Let's actually, before we dispel some fake news, and this time we get to make fun of David Otunga, and we get to make fun of Dave Meltzer. Dave and Dave. Not so super Daves. Oh, boy. Yep. Thank you, Rob Colon. There's a picture of him. That is the picture. There's a better picture out there where he's wearing like a blue checkered polo shirt. That picture is even better because he looks even nerdier. Right there, he looks a little bit like a bad boy because he's wearing like a regular white shirt. You got to find the blue checkered shirt. Find that picture, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll be like, I can't, there's no way that, yes. All right, couple of things I want to get into. I want to address this report going around that SmackDown is going back to 3 hours starting in January. I did as much research as I possibly could with this to try to understand where this came from, why this is happening, and is it real? Now, I will tell you right up front, there is absolutely, I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that WrestleVotes put out fake news. I'm not saying that at all. They're the ones that put the story out there that said as of the first week in January, SmackDown is going back to 3 hours. Okay. So where did this come from? So from my research, what I have found is that back about 2 months ago, you might remember that we talked about this summit, this media summit that Triple H was a part of and Nick Khan was a part of. Nick Khan had said a few things that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. During that summit, Triple H was talking about their television programming, and he talked about SmackDown, and he made a comment that no one, including me, really paid attention to. But I'm wondering if people are taking that comment, I wouldn't say misinterpreting it, but I think this is where they got it from. During that summit, Triple H talks about how SmackDown was 2 hours and then it was 3 hours for half a year. So now, and for those that don't remember, SmackDown left Fox a little early. So they went to the USA Network, and then Raw went to Netflix. And then the USA Network had Raw. Well, actually, I think USA Network had both for a little while, but the USA Network had SmackDown for 3 hours. SmackDown was 3 hours this year until July. It sounds like a distant memory, but it's not. SmackDown was 3 hours this year until July. So now you do the math. It was 3 hours starting in January, and then it stopped in July. It's about 6 months. And Triple H at the summit said 6 months. So now WrestleVotes is saying that starting the first week in January, they're going back to 3 hours, and a lot of places are reporting that it's only for 6 months. So is this the new contract that WWE signed? That with the USA Network, that now SmackDown every year will be 3 hours for 6 months and 2 hours for the other 6 months? That sounds a little bit strange, doesn't it? And it's also concerning because what do you do with the talent that you lose the hour for a 6 month period? So again, I'm not saying that WrestleVotes put out fake news. But what I'm saying is that it's a little strange to have a TV deal and half of the year is 3 hours and half of the year is only 2 hours. And yet no one in the media world, not even the wrestling world, but the media world, when they announced hundreds of millions of dollars of a TV deal, this was not discussed. This is not something you just say in a summit in passing. So I'm wondering if some people took that summit comment and is now twisting it around and thinking this is an annual thing now. So listen, I don't blame WWE for going back to 3 hours for SmackDown leading into WrestleMania, you know, because WrestleMania is in April. So SmackDown having 3 hours, it would add a little bit of a push. So it's not so bad. I think people got tired, and I think we all agree on this too. If you go back and you look at WWE this year, when did we start getting really annoyed at what was going on TV? Right after WrestleMania was over. Even when you had that push to SummerSlam, a lot of SummerSlam felt like it was put together in a very, very short amount of time, just like what they're doing with Survivor Series now. But the only reason we're not complaining about what's going on with Survivor Series right now is because you have both shows at 2 hours. You have them commingling on both brands. You have a John Cena retirement mixed in with it. And you have a little bit of returns. So that's why it feels a little different now. But it's very refreshing than having just Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Jey Uso, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and mix and match one other person or two to be the focal point of every main event for Raw for almost every fucking week. You know, a lot of you will remember early in the year, we had a couple of Raws where the women main evented multiple weeks in a row, and it was a breath of fresh air. And then all of a sudden, it's like Braun Breaker and Jey Uso. Bronson Reed and Jey Uso. Braun Breaker and CM Punk. Bronson Reed and CM Punk. Jey Uso and Braun, and it's just like mix and match every fucking week. So let's see what happens. But they're on record that SmackDown is going back to 3 hours starting the first week in January. So, all right. What else do we want to go? Oh, okay. Some ratings. I was going to post this on Twitter, but I don't want to come across as a dick. But I might end up doing it anyway. All right. We have NXT and AEW's rating for last week, but something bigger than that. Because remember, Nielsen changing their methodology to now today's technology instead of what was being done 25 years ago. You remember we made this prediction early in the year We even posted that wise-ass tweet a couple of months ago. That what's going to happen with the quarter-hour ratings once they switch over? How is WrestleNomics going to pull this one off? And listen, they're friends with some very, very powerful people in the wrestling media world. So when I say something like this pisses people off. But if you notice, no one ever challenges me because you can't challenge it. Just like Dave Meltzer, with all due respect to him, just because I'm not connected with all of them doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about. That doesn't mean that I don't do my research. It doesn't mean that I don't have people that actually work in the industry. So, when I put stuff out there, I don't do it for attention. I do it because it's true. All right. And if I get something wrong, I don't have any problem with somebody correcting me. But take notice how no one ever challenges me. No one ever corrects me. And I said, a year and a half ago, we started to find out about these quarter-hour ratings and how quote-unquote creative they were. And, that became a big talking point. Then all of a sudden, WrestleNomics would very quietly put, credit Broadcasting and Cable, credit Nielsen, something that they never did before, because I used to say, wait a minute, you're asking everybody to pay you money and not copy your ratings. And you want them to give you credit. How come you never give credit? Who do you get it from? And then suddenly they put that out there. But then you started to find out, like you look at every other form of entertainment out there, no one does quarter-hour ratings. No one. Never. For years and years. Why is it only wrestling? So once this new methodology was coming out, that they were going to start using smart TVs and Rokus and all those devices, you can no longer track quarter-hour breakdowns because Nielsen is going with the times. Why would we insist on connecting with DSL or 56K modem when you could fucking have, 900 megabyte Verizon Fios? Who in their right mind would insist on using technology from 20 years ago? Remember my scale analogy? So once we heard that this was coming out, my first thought was, good luck, WrestleNomics. Let's see how you do your quarter-hour ratings as soon as it comes out. And what happened? They never made a press release. They quietly on their Patreon told their subscribers that Nielsen sent them a cease and desist. Stop putting out the quarter-hour ratings. You're not privy to that information, which, in my honest opinion, guys, is a whole load of bullshit. Because, number one, if they stood by that it's public information, why would you cave in? They're supposed to be all about legalities. They'll dissect the Janelle Grant lawsuit with a fucking microscope. Here, Nielsen, and they didn't announce any names. They didn't show any screenshot of any email with anybody's names. Just stop. And why would they suddenly tell them stop putting out the quarter-hour ratings as soon as the new methodology comes out? Why? If they weren't privy before, it's ridiculous. And if you notice, no other wrestling websites ran with it. Why? Because they all depended on them. We predicted this months earlier. We have all the proof out there. So now you have to figure out, okay, we no longer could make our quarter-hour ratings. So how do we make money now? And you start putting out panels and analysis and graphs. Then when you start breaking it down, you realize that once again, this is much ado about nothing. So NXT for November 11th did 554,000 viewers, up from the previous week's 528,000. AEW Blood and Guts for Wednesday, November 12th did 600,000 viewers, up over 20% from the week prior's 497,000. Okay? That was the ratings. So now, a couple of days ago, WrestleNomics puts out that ever since Nielsen switched over to the new methodology, they were talking about how wrestling across the board is between like 11 and 20% down. And people run with it because it sounds like a big story, like, oh my God, they switched over to the new system and wrestling numbers are tremendously lower. Then you guys start realizing now it all makes sense. These fucking whack jobs, and yes, I used to be a whack job with it as well. These whack jobs in wrestling are obsessed about ratings because they're so obsessed and have such an intimate feelings towards wrestling, especially what they support and follow, that it's got to be perceived bigger than what it actually is. No one fucking watches the NBA, watches a Knicks game. Oh, I got to see what the rating is tomorrow. You watch a fucking Mets game. I can't wait to see what the rating is. Oh my God, the ratings, the demo. It went up, it went down. It went this way, it went that way. It's like people are mentally retarded. And I used to do the same thing. So you see, now it switches over and you realize some of these people were obsessed so much about ratings that maybe wrestling was a little bit overinflated for quite a long time. And now the truth is starting to come out. And why it didn't affect baseball, it didn't affect football, it didn't affect news, it didn't affect all it, because they handled the ratings normal, like normal people. It was out there, normal people. They didn't break down demos, this demo, this, and that. Oh, it went up against soccer. It went up against the tragedy. It went up against the shooting. It went up against Survivor. It went up against this. I swear to you, you go back to the early days of the Minority Report. I have a little announcement coming up in a moment. You look at those days, you never ever, we used to say it. How come Survivor, when they did shitty ratings, how come they never said, you know what, Raw was on last night or SmackDown? Like no other fucking show out there when they do a piss poor rating ever said, well, wrestling was on and that's why our number was down. Only wrestling did that. So now WrestleNomics puts out a couple of days ago how since they switched over to the new methodology, the numbers are down 11 to 20%. Well, I had a little bit of extra time yesterday. I didn't do the sit down because I couldn't sit up. I was laying in bed and I said, WrestleNomics put out 7 weeks worth of ratings because the new methodology now is 7 weeks old. They compared the 7 weeks prior to the switch to the last 7 weeks. And they came up with, wow, wrestling across the board is between 11 and 20% down. So what I did, I went back a year ago. Now, understand we could not calculate NXT. The reason being is because NXT around this time a year ago had switched over to the CW already. So if we go back 14 weeks, NXT at some point was on the USA Network. Then it went on CW, so you cannot compare the two. You also could not do that for SmackDown because last year SmackDown was on Fox and then it went to the USA Network. So on Fox, because it's regular TV, they were doing what, 2 million fans? And then they went to the USA Network and it dropped to 1.5 million. So you can't compare the 7 weeks prior because 7 weeks prior, it was on Fox, and now the 7 weeks afterwards, USA Network. So you want to compare apples to apples. So a year ago, all you could do is compare Raw, Dynamite, and Collision because those shows were on the same networks. And you couldn't even sort of compare Dynamite for the full 7 weeks because Title Tuesday, they went on Tuesday head-to-head with NXT, and they scored a year ago 329,000 viewers for a week. So what I did was I went back a year. I said, I'm curious. I want to know what Raw, Dynamite, and Collision's numbers were 7 weeks earlier and then the last 7 weeks, like 14 weeks ago, and then the last 7 weeks, just like they compared to over this weekend. And what I found is that a year ago, when Raw was on the air from August to September for the 7 week period. All right. Then you compare, let me do it simple numbers. You go back to the first week in August of last year to the third week of September. That is 7 weeks. Raw on the USA Network averaged 1,662,000 viewers. So now you take the next 7 weeks, which was the week of September 23rd to the week of November 4th. And what you find is that the Raw rating for those 7 weeks after were 1,483,000 viewers, which means that those last 7 weeks were down 11%. Okay? Collision, a year ago. You go from the week of August 5th to the week of September 16th. You will find that Collision averaged 262,000 viewers. Then you take the next 7 weeks from September 23rd of last year to November 4th of last year. And the average rating for Collision was 233,000 viewers, down 11%. Then you go to Dynamite. And I left that Title Tuesday out because you really, if you include that number, it drops the average a little bit too falsely. You take August 5th to September 16th of last year, Dynamite averaged 693,000 viewers. Then you take the next 7 weeks, September 23rd to November 4th, not including that 329,000 viewership episode, their rating dropped to 630,000 viewers, down 9%. What does that say? A fucking year ago, Raw and Collision were both down 11%, and Dynamite was down almost 10% over a 14-week period. So when you turn around and you hear this bullshit over the weekend that, oh, the shows are averaging 11 to 20% down for the last 7 weeks compared to the 7 weeks prior. Yeah, because at this time of the year, fucking wrestling always goes down in the ratings. Don't believe me? Go look it up. Do the research and you realize this dramatic report that everybody's talking about, and trust me, Dutch will talk about it with his fucking, that emoji with him with his mouth looking like a goldfish, trying to do his Dana Brooke impersonation. Jim Cornette obviously will talk about it. Vince Russo, bro, will get into it. Everybody will turn this into a major fucking story. I just want you to know, you go back a year ago, you will find that AEW and WWE's viewership was down significantly. And the only reason why we cannot give you NXT and SmackDown yet was because they were on two sets of networks and you can't compare the two. So just wanted to put that out there because a lot of people are going to, fall for that. And I want you to know the truth. So more nonsense. For everybody live, I posted the clip in the chat room. On the replay, I want everybody to hear more bullshit. I don't have nothing personal against David Otunga. He never hit on my wife. He never fucking embarrassed me. Never talked to me. He never, made fun of me. Never said the show sucks. Never, came across him. I don't have anything personal against David Otunga, but it's pretty fucking obvious. Something happened where he decided, I want to be the next Maven. I want to be on Busted Open. I want to be an internet celebrity. And every week that goes by, he turns into a bigger fucking goof. And I start to say to myself, yeah, that's probably why Jennifer Hudson did leave him. This motherfucker keeps putting out stupid shit that we keep confronting over and over again. And somebody said to me like a week ago, they're like, DT, you think you're a little bit too hard on him? Well, I want everybody to hear this fucking clip. He just went on TMZ Sports. And just to show you like how disingenuous TMZ is, David Otunga tells a story about the Great Khali and how he didn't want to take Great Khali's finisher because the Great Khali, I'll let you hear it for yourself.
I've never told this story, so this is pretty good. So Khali had another finisher, and it was like this two-handed choke slam. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but he killed somebody with that in OVW by accident.
I forgot about this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
I was well aware of that. Right?
Yeah.
So
fucking liar. He remembers when Great Khali killed someone in OVW. And these fucking Polacks on TMZ. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Oh my God, I forgot. Oh, yes, Great Khali had an unfortunate incident where a wrestler got hurt in 2002 for Roland Alexander and Brian Ong. Kevin and I talked about it way back when it happened. In fact, believe it or not, over the next week, we're going to be putting online across all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, everywhere else. was starting to upload old school DTKC show episodes. Right now, from November of 2005 to April of 2006, those are going to be coming up this week. The audio quality is horrendous. But since a lot of you use mobile phones now to listen to shows, audio will probably sound fine. Believe it or not, there's a synopsis for one of those episodes where you'll see in the synopsis, it says collard greens. Sure, a lot of you know what collard greens is. You know, that's like a food, a vegetable, I think. You'll hear that episode and you'll hear Kevin and I talking about Great Khali and the Brian Ong incident from 2002. All right, so we've talked about that. But this motherfucker goes on TMZ and says that, you know, this guy killed someone in OVW, which is not true. It never happened in OVW. But then you get these more, I forgot about that. Well, I didn't forget about you, fucking liar, man. And Jim Cornette basically ripped him a new asshole. And you know what sucks about it? These fucking pieces of shit on TMZ, you have people over, and this is a perfect example of what I always complain about. And I know a lot of you get tired of it, but this really incenses me. You have people out there that know something they put up is incorrect, and they don't fix it. They don't update it because they know they'll get more of a response of people that'll say, bruh, that's not true, bruh. You should correct that, bruh. That didn't happen, bruh. And people fucking realize, holy shit, yeah, I'll leave it alone and I'll get more people that'll correct me. Because if they correct it, then no one will say anything. These motherfuckers on TMZ on YouTube kept that clip up and you see all these people in the comment section, bruh, it didn't happen in OVW, bruh. That's not true, bruh. Yeah, it's not, and they leave it. They leave it. Great Khali could give a flying fuck about David Otunga right now, but what a fucking just loser, absolute garbage. But one we can have a little fun with is Dave Meltzer. All right, this has to do with Dominik Mysterio, John Cena, and Survivor Series. Because if you've been following it closely, you start to understand a little bit more how Dave Meltzer operates in 2025. And, you know, I'm not going to lie. I think this is something that I've been guilty about in the past. No question whatsoever. But here's the thing, okay? We covered a few months ago, about 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, the rumored Survivor Series card. Dave, in his October newsletter, I think it was October 13th or October 6th. I don't remember which week it was, but he claimed to have the supposed lineup for Survivor Series. Now, yes, Seth Rollins got injured, obviously caused things to change a little bit. No question about it. But what was funny, you're starting to see now, is that when he gets something wrong, instead of just correcting it, there's always got to be an excuse behind it. Or he tries to add something to make it seem like he got more sources for information. And when you see this happen within a 3-day period, it's pretty fucking humorous to sit there and watch, because we had it happen literally today on Raw. Because on the October 13th newsletter, this was definitely October 13th newsletter, at the time, he was saying that WWE is planning on a dream team. And the dream team was going to consist of CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso, Roman Reigns, and John Cena. Okay? Now, how could that possibly be when he said originally that Dominik Mysterio would defend the Intercontinental Championship against John Cena at Survivor Series? Now, if you remember, his original report was not John Cena and his dream team. I just posted the picture in the chat room. All right. And for those that obviously are checking this audio only, the original lineup that he said was going to happen was Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins, Brock Lesnar, and Austin Theory. versus the Usos, Roman Reigns, Jacob Fatu, and LA Knight. That was the lineup. John Cena was never listed in there because he said that Cena would take on Dominik. All right. Now, you're going to say at this point, hey, well, he is facing Dominik, so he got that right. Well, last Monday goes down. Monday Night Raw. John Cena ends up wrestling Dominik on Raw, and John Cena wins the championship. So now, last week, Dave Meltzer, because it didn't happen at Survivor Series, and some people like, hey, you got that wrong, and he puts an update last week that plans change, and WWE decided to move up John Cena versus Dominik Mysterio to Raw, and that frees up John Cena to get involved in Survivor Series for the dream match in San Diego, California. So to cover up the fact that John Cena did not take on Dominik at Survivor Series for the championship, that now he reports that it was moved up so they could have John Cena face someone else. So now what happens on Raw tonight is Dominik Mysterio wants a rematch, as we talked about Wednesday. And John Cena says, yeah, let's do the rematch. Let's do it right now. And Dominik is like, no, it's on my terms. We're doing it in Survivor Series in San Diego. So now he backtracked about John Cena taking on Dominik because it happened last week on Raw, instead of saying maybe there's a rematch for Survivor Series. So he pulled back on that match to once again put John Cena in the dream match. And what happens tonight? We find out that Dominik is going to battle John Cena after all at Survivor Series, and Cena has nothing to do with no dream team. So it's just so you understand, I've always used the phrase, how the sausage is made. But now you see, like, when something ends up being wrong, instead of people just saying, I tell you, back in the day, people used to say this much more. Oh, plans change. That's the easiest fucking thing you could say to get out of reporting wrong news. Back in the day when we would report something and it ended up being wrong, we would just say WWE changed their mind. I mean, it's such an easy way out. WWE changed their mind. It's like, remember what I said 2 weeks ago? Because Kevin and I used to troll some people sometimes. Hey, why do you think this is happening? And then your super chat. Kevin and I, when we got Rest of Soul, we did an episode on YouTube about a year ago. And somebody was in a different country, and it looked like they contributed like a huge amount of money because their donation was in red. If anybody's ever super chatting, when it's in red, you know somebody's serious business. So we were like oohing and ahhing. And as we're doing the show, Kev sends me a DM. He says, how much is that? And I was like, I don't even know what currency that is. I looked it up and it was like $1.15. So the guy asked us like 7 questions, and Kev pulled out an old ammunition that we used to do. And the guy was like, why do you think that that WWE decided to pull back on this person? And Kev said, because. And that's all he said. And we used to do that on the shows. And I talked about it 2 weeks ago. But that would be like our way of like, just like ending a conversation without putting too many brain cells in it. It's not that you have to pay us to say something, but someone was just question after question after question. And that's why even back in the day, we stopped taking calls. Nothing against anybody who called. And when you check out the retro episodes, you'll see the pattern almost immediately. You get the same people calling every single week, and that's cool and everything. But then what would happen is some people would call in just to call in. And you'd be like, hey, you're on, who's this? Hey, this is John from Brooklyn. Hey, John, what's going on? No, not much. Oh, okay, you got a question? Yeah, I watched Raw tonight. Did you see Raw? Kevin and I would be like, yeah, we just talked about it for 45 minutes. And you realize like people just call in just to call in. And it got to the point where people would complain. There was some people like Deadpool and others who were awesome. People loved hearing them call in. But you had a whole bunch of people who would just call in just to call in. And it got to the point, that we, stopped it. But again, back in the day, if you put something out there, believe it or not, in one of the synopsises, you'll hear Kevin and I discussing the rumor that Hulk Hogan is going to face Steve Austin at a WrestleMania. I don't know if it was WrestleMania 32. I remember what WrestleMania was, but there was a rumor going around. It ended up being wrong. Back in the day, plans changed. Literally, that's all you got to do. But now, instead of just, hey, the WWE decided to do this, to that. Because honestly, guys, even me, I will admit it. There's no way I would have thought Dominik Mysterio would wrestle 3 of John Cena's last 4 matches. And that is true. I mean, when you realize it, he wrestled last week on Raw. He wrestled tonight on Raw. He's going to wrestle him again in Survivor Series, and then John Cena takes on Gunther, and that's it. That's fucking awesome. If you're Dominik Mysterio, man, you're on cloud 9 right now. So, but yeah, so that's just, again, this is how the sausage is made. Shit gets reported. Shit ends up, changing. And then instead of just saying, look, things change. No, they got to twist it around and say, oh, no, well, I was told this. And then it ends up happening after all. And it's like, okay, I should have just kept my fucking mouth shut. And I would end, if he would have just kept his mouth shut since October, he would have gotten a shitload more of this right. The only thing he would have really got wrong was that we weren't getting Team Bloodline. Because remember also, they were saying it was going to be Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. And this is, oh no. No. And look at Charlotte Flair. After Friday SmackDown, did you see all the fake news reporting? Like, WWE decided to remove Charlotte Flair. That opens up 2 spots, and that'll open the opportunity for Bayley and Lionel the Carrier to get involved in some. That's what I kept reading over and over again. I wanted to put my head through a plate glass window because the 2 spots opened up. And my sources tell me there's Lionel the Carrier and Bayley. And I tell you the truth, when you watch the beginning of Raw tonight, when you saw Bayley interacted with the Kabuki Warriors, it felt very random, right? And then, they stormed off, and you would have like, oh, okay. They wanted to revisit Bayley and Kabuki Warriors because now Kabuki Warriors will fuck up Bayley and Lyra Carey and they're in WarGames. So for a few moments tonight, it made sense. Until Charlotte Flair decided to come out, and yes, I counted how many Singapore cane shots she did tonight. We'll recap Raw in a moment. I'm almost done with the news reporting. Let's see what else I got over here. Okay. A couple other things. Douchebag Goldberg. Alleged douchebag. Like, we know he's done like douchey things. He might have done another douchey thing. This weekend, we had the big event, big autograph signing convention here in Queens, New York. I wanted to go. I obviously couldn't. I had surgery the day before. I was in no condition. Goldberg was one of the participants there. Remember, Bret Hart was supposed to be there too, but Bret Hart backed out. Goldberg was going to do a private autograph signing with a company called KS WrestleFest. I've heard of them before. Never heard anything bad about them. But they claim that Goldberg was signing autographs at the big event. And then after it was done, he was supposed to do this private signing, the KS WrestleFest. And Goldberg basically walked right by their booth and said, no, I'm done. And ended up doing like an autograph signing for someone else. And I'm like, that reminded me so much of our conversation we said about Lex Luger recently. When Lex Luger's like, nah, I'm not doing the Hall of Fame. I'm not standing. I'm not wheeling on the stage. I'm too tired. And then he goes to the fucking wrestling convention, WrestleMania weekend. WWE hasn't mentioned the words Lex Luger since. We predicted that. Remember WrestleMania week? You said you will not hear Lex Luger's name coming out of WWE's mouth for the rest of the year unless he dies. I know that sounds awful, but it's true. So I'm trying to find out if this report is completely true about Goldberg just walking out. Because here's the thing, and I'm given the benefit of the doubt here. I haven't found one wrestling fan online who claimed to have given money to KS WrestleFest for a Goldberg autograph, then ended up not getting their autograph. Now, K&S WrestleFest, I'm sure, would just refund everyone. But if I'm a wrestling fan and I live in Ohio and I paid money to WrestleFest so Goldberg could sign something for me, even if I get my money back, I'd still go on Twitter and be like, man, I got my money back with Goldberg, that fucking piece of shit. Canceled the signing. Didn't sign my item. I didn't see one wrestling fan online complaining. And you would have thought with all the fake bots that Tony Khan claims on X, you would think that Bret Hart bots would be like, my son is dying from cancer, and all I wanted was KS WrestleFest to have him autograph my son's picture. He met Goldberg back in like 2005, which would make my son 20, but he's still a kid because he's got like kid disease. He still looks like he's 2 years old. And Goldberg didn't sign. So now my kid doesn't have no autograph. And I'm not good at forging stuff. Like, you didn't see anybody on social media saying, Goldberg fucked me up. So I don't know how much this is true. I'm wondering if Goldberg just looked at KS WrestleFest and be like, nobody bought anything. What are we going to do? Waste my time to sign 3 things? The fuck out of here. So I'm expecting Goldberg to make a statement, but I will say this. And it was funny because when we used to say this back in the MySpace days, it made a little bit more sense back then when people would be like, well, give it a little time, sure, we'll get a statement. In this day and age with technology and phones, if we're being honest, Goldberg Sunday morning could, and I'm not even trying to be funny, but I know some of you will laugh when I say this because we do this in our own personal lives. Does anybody think, like, because Goldberg's a Hall of Famer, like when he goes home at night, that he doesn't have the same routine? That he doesn't, like, take his clothes off and take a shower and shave and shit and fucking eat? Whether he microwaves something or he says, Helen, cook me this or order me this or deliver me that. Like, he lives like anybody else. So if Goldberg is taking a shit Sunday morning and sees online that KS WrestleFest is fucking telling everyone everywhere that this motherfucker walked out and didn't do the signing, what's stopping Goldberg to take his pudgy little fingers while he's taking his shit and just type it? He doesn't even have to type. For all we know, Goldberg don't even know how to read. All he could do is just say, hit the microphone and say, I wanted to issue this statement contrary to K&S. The truth is that they owed me money and this and that, and I'm sorry for anybody that was waiting for something. Why does it take 3 days to make a statement? This happened Saturday. We're now approaching Tuesday. Unless there's some holiday that goes against Goldberg's religion, it's I can't post online day. Like, why does it take 3 days to make a 2, 3, 4 sentence statement? Back 20 years ago, all right, not everybody goes on the internet. It's a bullshit connection. You didn't have really social media. You had a little bit of MySpace. You didn't have what you have now. Literally, why would it take anybody days to make a statement? You could issue a comment fucking 30 seconds later. Hey, why is my name? What about his son? Dad, you're trending all over social media. Oh, it's the picture of me and Sting. Blah, blah, blah. No. You apparently, were a douchebag at the autograph. Wait, what? What? That's Bret. That's Bret doing that. I'll spear him his Canadian ass again. What's stopping why Goldberg? Why aren't you saying nothing? So, again, we're in a technology age that literally a minute later you can make a statement. So as time goes by, I think this is more of just Goldberg not giving a fuck. All right. Let's continue. What do I have left? Oh, if you are a fan of Paul Heyman, I don't enjoy the Stephanie McMahon podcast at all. Has nothing to do with her arrow nose that for 20-something years, I still get fixated on. Something about her nose. It turns into a crinkled thing when she smiles. I don't know. Just something about her nose that just, I don't know. It skivatzes me. But I don't like her podcast at all. I still don't know who this other woman is. She seems friendly and entertaining. She reminds me of what I say about a lot of other podcasts out there. If you look at like the Arn podcast and the Jim Ross podcast and the Dutch Mantel and the Shane Douglas and the Don Morocco and this person and this person and this grandmother, they always have, for the most part, somebody on there that is not famous. And you're like, well, why can't the Arn podcast just like be like Arn with another famous person? Then you realize, oh, me don't know how to upload. Me don't know how to hit record. Codec? What is a codec? Me don't know how to post video. YouTube? I just know how to press play. And then you realize that these people are on because they do all the legwork for the legend. Trust me, I know. Back in the days with the Masked Maniac. Why do you think I was on with the Masked Maniac? It wasn't just because I was helping him being a co-host, but I did everything in the backdrop. So I don't know who this girl is. Like, this is like a professional podcast. They probably have like 30 people working for them. I thought maybe she's a legend in wrestling, but then I'm like, no, I probably remember that physique if she was in the ring. And I'm not saying it to be nasty or funny, but like, you know, you do remember like your Nia Jaxes and your Matilda the Huns and, you know, wrestlers like that. Like, I don't remember her in the ring. I don't know who she is. So Stephanie is interviewing Paul Heyman and it's fucking fun. I mean, the conversations about Vince, that was pretty much discussed over the years. It's just that you never heard Stephanie and Paul Heyman saying it together. You had wrestlers on shoot interviews do this, talk about it. You had so many other hands in the cookie jar talking about it. But this was the first time you had Stephanie and Paul Heyman actually talking together about it. And it's definitely worth a look. I think you will really enjoy it. So if you are a fan of Paul Heyman, if you do like the Stephanie podcast, go check out the Paul Heyman one. It is definitely worth watching. I watched most of it today, and I enjoyed it tremendously. All right. Couple other things. Joe Hendry, now officially on WWE's roster. Again, it's a shame he was not part of this John Cena tournament, but, you know, he's going to be at the Garden tomorrow. He's going to be teaming up with Thea Hale, you know, taking on Ethan Page and Chelsea Green. You're not going to have him showcased in a tournament and lose to someone and then try to showcase him as an important person in NXT. So it totally makes sense why he's not on in this tournament. But Joe Hendry is now officially on WWE's payroll. He is completely gone from TNA. Doesn't mean that he won't appear in TNA again, but he is no longer under contract with TNA. I don't even want to spend much time on it at all, but I'm kind of forced to because of the thumbnail I made tonight. Like, I saw the social media trending Thursday night. Now, I couldn't do Patreon Thursday night because Friday I had my endoscopy, my colonoscopy. I had my hernia repaired, and then they went in to see if they can remove that tumor in my midsection. And unfortunately, the tumor couldn't come out because it's in a very bad spot. But, you know, the other things I got done. So if anybody's had a colonoscopy done, you know what you have to do to prepare. So Thursday night, I'm not kidding, I probably went and took a dump like 15 times. And there was one point Thursday night where every time I left the bathroom to like go lay down, I literally had to turn around and go back in the bathroom. So I literally decided I was going to just camp out in my bathroom for about 30 minutes, and I was on social media. So as I'm on social media, some of the results of Impact coming in. And as I'm looking at Impact, I see they did some dumb fucking storyline where Mike Santana was going to defend the title against Dolph Ziggler. And then you had a bunch of NXT guys come in, Lexis King, Tyrick Eway, Charlie Dempsey, Robert Stone, and they all attack Santana. And I'm like, oh my God, nothing against those guys, but they learn nothing from the dark state garbage. And what happens? Fucking, you get Frankie Kazarian cashing in his Call Your Shot trophy. Remember when they both co-won it? And a motherfucker pins Mike Santana. And I'm like, he already lost the belt. They literally, and the most funniest thing about it, and listen, I have been defending TNA for a while, and I have watched more TNA the last 6 months than I've watched AEW, and I've seen enough AEW, trust me. And we'll have some fun with AEW in a minute. So this is ridiculously bad. And I'm like, Mike Santana was an awesome build, especially the demons, the battles, and, just the stigma of being part of LAX and, just really transforming his body, his mind, his soul, and getting the fans behind him. I wouldn't call it a Rocky story, but, this was a great story. And I'm wondering if these morons behind the scenes in in TNA, that are like looking at the anniversary of the Hard Times promo, thinking like, oh, he's better suited as chasing the title than being the champion, because that's what they did with Dusty Rhodes back in the day. Dusty Rhodes, when he first won the championship the first time, it was a memorable moment, baby. And we all fucking loved it. And it was the cover of every magazine. And by the time the magazine came out, he was no longer the champion. Then they realized once he got the belt, they're like, now what? Oh, it doesn't have the same luster anymore. Then they realized Dusty's better chasing for the title than being the champion, baby. So Dusty Rhodes, I've always said he's one of the worst NWA champions of all time. And I think Dusty Rhodes is one of the greatest of all time. And people say to me, DT, how could he be both? Because go look at how long his reigns were. I think his 3 title reigns don't even add up to 2 months. So Dusty Rhodes was more money chasing the title. Mike Santana ain't no Dusty Rhodes. And it's not because he's Spanish. He's no Dusty Rhodes. They literally took the title off of him for fucking Frankie Kazarian. The fuck is going to watch that? And then the best part is, with all due respect, like, oh no, you got to wait. Tyrick Eway will get his. I'm like, the only thing that will satisfy him getting his is if he gets canned from WWE. Like, I don't care about these people. Robert Stone, all right, he's okay, but, what does he do? Like, he's Mr. Stone. He does a lot of stuff behind the scene. Like, the only person on that list next to Lexis King is, like, Charlie Dempsey. I'm like, why do I care that these people showed up and beat up on Mike Santana? I'm like, for what? I could see if they did it for Dolph Ziggler, because Dolph Ziggler has history in the WWE, but he has no connection with any of these wrestlers. It's just horrible. This is not good at all. Oh, no, just wait. Wait for what? We thought that Mike Santana was winning the belt when it came to Long Island in the summertime, and it didn't happen. Like, wait for what? Wait, so we wait another 6 months? Then he wins the belt back, and then what? He loses it almost immediately? Just really bad, man. Really. I watched that in real time. Maybe I was just extra aggravated because I was literally cleaning out my pipes. And it was not fun staying on that bowl. But I was like, this is just bad. Like super, super bad. Then they had their pay-per-view on Friday. And somebody puts fake news. So PW Insider and WrestleVotes and everybody else says Mike Santana walked out of TNA and is no showing the pay-per-view on Friday. And I'm like, this is just like a train wreck. And Turning Point goes down. And what happens? They wrestled. Steve Maclin and Mike Santana wrestled a tag team match as a main event. And then you get the NXT rejects attacking again. I'm like, let me put it this way. And I'm not, actually, you can't even say this because of Tyrick Eway and, but we had Dark State. This was like White State. It was bad. This is not even fun. And they like, well, the Hardys came out, tried to make the save. I'm like, I don't give a shit who comes out. This is still bad. The only thing that was great about Turning Point was seeing fucking Wesley return. And even that, if we're being honest, it's like, you remember the Last Man Standing or the fucking match that he had in NXT? That, like, Wesley's just like nothing happened. Like, they reformed the Rascals, but that was fucking cool. That was very cool, because I said it the day he got released. I said, how the fuck does WWE not see money by having the Rascals on their main roster? Unless they just contractually wise could not work it out where, 2 or 3 of the members couldn't be on WWE right now, and they just felt they didn't want to push Wesley on his own. But man, the Rascals, talk about a team. With all due respect, I'd rather see the Rascals in WWE than the Motor City Machine Guns. And I get why the Motor City Machine Guns are there. I mean, they're arguably Hall of Famers. They're veterans. They literally, they could wrestle me and my dead grandmother and probably have a good match. You know what I mean? Like, they just that good at doing what they do. So another thing is Breezango reunited at Turning Point, and Fandango is retiring in January. Unfortunately, though, we're not going to get the, Fandango tour. We're not going to get that retirement tour. I mean, it's just, I don't know why the abrupt decision to retire. I mean, he's still physically fit. I mean, you work indies, whenever you feel like it. You work an indie once in a while. To retire, I don't know. Couple other things. Got to give total credit to John Alba for this one. He's gotten from pretty good sources that AMC is now a serious contender to get TNA. AMC is a legit channel, obviously. I know everybody watches The Walking Dead on AMC, but what was very interesting about what John Alba put out is that TNA is looking for $10 million a year for landing a TV deal. $10 million. That is pretty freaking cheap. Now, we never found out what AEW's TV deal was. We never got a dollar figure. Trust me, if it was a tremendously good dollar figure, everybody would be talking about it. I even think fucking, what's his face? Will Ospreay would have tattooed it on his other arm what the TV deal was. There was the rumors 160 million, 144 million. Nobody ever really got the number, but you got to divide that into years. So if you divide that into 5 years, that's like, what, 35 million a year, 40 million a year? And I don't even think it's that much. I think that Tony Khan is, giving a lot more just to have the opportunity to be on Warner Brothers Discovery. But $10 million seems quite low in this day and age. I mean, because WWE was getting 100 and something million a year, right? Like, you're telling me that Impact is only less than 10% of that? That is awfully, awfully cheap. But I also feel that, if we get streaming numbers for Impact, I think they'd be Collision numbers. 200,000-300,000. I mean, with all due respect, I mean, oh my God, Charlie Dempsey is in the Impact Zone. I'm like, so? I mean, that's the problem with this NXT TNA feud. Like, a lot of the people participating, it's like, so what? Tyreek Eway attacked AJ France. I'm like, good. Did they use knives? Like, good. What do I care? It's just not, it doesn't feel compelling. If you're going to do this, have it compelling. So, all right. What else do I have here? I know what I wanted to mention. A couple other things. And then I have a little surprise for you. It's not a big deal, but, if anybody's bitching about ticket prices with WWE, I did a little extra research you might get a kick out of, and then we'll start bringing this home. Get ready. Ricky Steamboat. If we had the video right now, you'd see me holding the salami. Ricky Steamboat's ass is going to be red because a lot of people are going to be fucking him up verbally right now because he went on Bill Apter's podcast on Monday. And remember, Ricky Steamboat was at Blood and Guts. Ric Flair was there also, but Ric Flair left earlier because he had pain in his shoulder. He issued an apology, and apparently he'll be back soon. But, if we're being honest, Ric Flair was just shown on fucking social media lifting like 300 pounds. Remember when I said that his heart is probably like a old worn out rubber band just waiting to snap? If I'm Ric Flair and I got a little pain on my shoulder, especially at his age, I mean, you ever have a grandfather be like, take a slug of scotch. You won't feel nothing. Like, Ric Flair would have just taken a shot of Jack Daniels and be like, oh, what pain? He walked out. So Ricky Steamboat is there also. And Ricky Steamboat has a segment with FTR. No complaints there. But Ricky Steamboat went on Bill Apter's podcast. And Bill Apter asked him about Blood and Guts. And it focused on the women's Blood and Guts. And Ricky Steamboat said, to be honest, I didn't care for it. God bless those girls that were in the match. But the format was overwhelming. They had like 16 girls in there or something like that, and it was just scattered. You couldn't focus on anything because there was just so much going on. Different women doing different spots. And he said it made it very difficult as a viewer to react or stay engaged. And he said that really pissed people off. He wondered how many of the people in the match had ever been in a match like that before. He thinks that for most of them, it was their first time. So Ricky Steamboat is getting vilified right now on social media, bringing up that he's 72 years old. Maybe you can't keep up because you're an old fart waiting to die. Yes, some esteemed podcaster that has bigger following than me said that. They're pissed off at Ricky Steamboat for saying that. And, my thoughts on the women's Blood and Guts. This is the best way I could say it. I thought everybody worked hard, but the way I looked at it is like this. Pretend Tony Khan is a coach of a baseball team. What was that? The one with the girls playing baseball, not Major League, but the League of Their Own. Anybody remember that movie, A League of Their Own? This picture, instead of Tom Hanks, Tony Khan is the manager. And you have all of these women like, Tony, I want to play. I want to play. Tony, I want to play. I want to play. But girls, there's only 9 positions on the field. But Tony, come on, me. And Tony Khan puts like 13 people on the field. All right, you play between first base and right field. Like, that's like how I felt about Blood and Guts. Like, no, but I want to play too. Come on. I want to play. Please, Tony. I want to do it. Come on. It looks like fun. Oh, my God. I'll go to Home Depot. I'll buy nails. Oh, my God. Tony, look, I'll bleed. Oh, my God. And he's like, all right. You could all play. Thank you, Tony. Like, it's like a bad episode of Charlie's Angels. Anybody watch Charlie's Angels in the 70s? And you'd have like, hello, girls. Hello, Charlie. And all 3 girls would have to say it at the same time, like synchronized greetings. It's like a new Olympic sport, synchronized greetings.
Good morning, angels.
Morning, Charlie.
I could picture like, could you imagine like all the women are saying to Tony Khan, listen, I want to be in a match. Can I be in a match? Please, I want to be in a match. I want to be in a match. And Tony's like, all right, you're all in a match. I can see them all like, yay. And the men would do that too. So I'm not trying to like sing out the women, but that's what Blood and Guts, the women's one, reminded me of. It was just a hot mess. It's just a hot mess. But, you know, to me, again, it's the mentality of Tony Khan. You know, it's just too much. You know, like, you ever watch like a TV show and like you're young and you're like, dude, but what if we did this? Oh my God, dude, could you imagine we did this? Like, I'm not proud of it. But when I was in my teens, a lot of you have heard the stories of growing up Don Tony stuff. Me and my friends would go to the beach and we dig in for sand crabs. And back in the 80s, you know, like microwaves were still like, you know, still revolutionary in a lot of ways. And one time we went to my friend's house and we brought Dunkin' Donuts munchkins over. And we wanted to see what would happen if you put a munchkin in a microwave for 20 minutes. And literally we keep it in a microwave until the things would explode. And we would all giggle about it. And then one time, like the following week, we went to the beach and we dug up a bunch of sand crabs. And my friend is like, dude, what do you think will happen if we microwave them alive? Dude, and everybody's in my friend's kitchen and they fucking put the sand crabs in a microwave and they would fucking explode. They'll be running around. I'm not happy about it. It's just fucking 40 years ago, guys. But that's what being my friends would be like giggling. It's like bad Beavis and Butthead. It's like white, fat Italian version of Beavis and Butthead. It's like Bevicia and Buttheado. You know, that's what we want. That's what Tony Khan seems like. Dude, we could do Blood and Guts, but dude, no, we could do a cage match, but dude, no, we got to do this. We got to go one step further. We got to use a syringe. We got to fucking make somebody, you're going to suffocate someone. It's like the extra one step that's totally not necessary. When we did the history show this week, and I talked about it, that match with Swerve and Hangman Page, if they just didn't do the drinking of the blood and, you know what I mean? Like, if you just left that one segment out, the match would be viewed so much differently. If you would have left the fucking syringe out, if you would have left the fucking attempted drowning out, it would be viewed so differently. But it's like, dude, no, we got to do one. We got to do something. No, we got to do one. So that's that. So Ricky Steamboat's getting hammered right now. Mercedes Moné won the APAC. I don't know. I still think of when they used to do X-Pac. APAC Wrestling Women's Championship, defeated Nor Phoenix Diana. I'm sorry. She wrestles for House of Glory and she's great and everything. Every time I hear the name, I think of a Michael Jackson song. Like, I actually would like to, like, they have to do it with AI and she comes out and it's like, Phoenix Diana, Phoenix, like with the Michael Jackson voice. But Mercedes Moné is going to wrestle on Dynamite Wednesday. She is going to wrestle Red Velvet to determine who is the real Ring of Honor Women's TV champion, because Mercedes Moné was the interim champion. So if Mercedes Moné wins, she's still holding 13 belts. It's not like an additional title. So that's going on there. And let's see. Oh, I have one other thing, and then we'll just recap Raw very quickly. All right, I got something cool for you. Because I was working on my history show for this coming week. We all know the kind of money that WWE is commanding for WrestleMania. So I went back almost 10 years ago. 8 to be exact. This is before COVID. I don't think it's fair to compare COVID era and right after, because still people were very cautious to return to big gatherings. So I went back to WrestleMania 33. And if you think I'm making any of this up, you could look at old press releases. This is 100% true. Just to show you how much has changed in less than 10 years in the WWE. We know that they're commanding like $25,000, $30,000 for WrestleMania. All right. Back at WrestleMania 33. I want to read you quickly the results from WrestleMania 33 so you get an idea of who was on the card, because this was not a shit card. It was only one night, but it was 13 matches. And believe it or not, there were 2 matches that were about 5 minutes long. Other than that, every match was over 10 minutes. And there were multiple matches over 20 minutes. So this is not like, you know, an old WWF show where it'd be 15 matches and everything is 4 minutes long. I want to read you the results, and I'm going to read you what the ticket prices were at the time, because this will blow you away. This will actually blow you away what WWE was offering at that time, okay? Neville versus, I'm not going to give you the results, just tell you the matches. Neville versus Austin Aries for the Cruiserweight title. We had the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royale. We had, for the Intercontinental Championship, Dean Ambrose defending against Baron Corbin. AJ Styles versus Shane McMahon. Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho for the United States Champion. I think that's when they were feuding, when Jericho was put on the list. Bayley defending the Raw Women's Championship in a fatal four-way against Nia Jax, Charlotte Flair, and Sasha Banks. In another fatal four-way, it was a tag team ladder match for the Raw tag titles. The Hardy Boys took on Sheamus and Cesaro, Enzo and Big Cass, and Gallows and Anderson, who were the champs. John Cena and Nikki Bella versus The Miz and Maurice. And isn't that the night that John Cena proposed? I think he proposed right after the match was over. Seth Rollins in a non-sanctioned match against Triple H. For the WWE Championship, Randy Orton versus then-champ Bray Wyatt. For the Universal Championship, Brock Lesnar challenges Goldberg, who was the champion. For the SmackDown Women's Championship in a 6-pack challenge, Naomi versus champ Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch, Carmella, Mickie James, and Natalya. And the main event in a no-holds-barred match, it was Roman Reigns versus The Undertaker. All right, so it was a stacked card. Just to give you an idea what WWE was charging at that time, they were offering a deal, all right? And for this deal, you would get a ticket, same seat. You get a ticket for NXT, WrestleMania, because WrestleMania was just one night at the time. You get a ticket for NXT on April 1st, WrestleMania 33 on April 2nd, Monday Night Raw on April 3rd, and the SmackDown taping on April 4th. You got all 4 tickets. If you wanted to sit on the floor, which would not the floor, like the dirty floor, I mean the floor seats, chairs. If you wanted to sit on the floor and get the premium package, you would also get a ticket for the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. You would get transportation to and from the arena from your hotel. So you got transportation, which was probably a bus, to and from the arena, the hotel to the arena for all 5 nights. You got the Hall of Fame ceremony, NXT, WrestleMania, Raw, and SmackDown. If you sat on the floor, you would pay $6,000 for everything. You would get all the events for $6,000. If you wanted to sit in the boondocks, it was $1,000. Let that sink in. $6,000 to get, it was a package deal. These were travel packages that they were offering at that time. So for $6,000, you got 4 fucking nights of wrestling, plus Hall of Fame, and you got transportation to and back. And trust me, if anyone out there's ever been to a big event, it doesn't even have to be WrestleMania, but if it's like a football game or something, and you're depending on Uber to get home, especially if you're in a different state and you're traveling, when you have 10,000 people all trying to get Ubers, even if you were able to call and arrange an Uber, I got an Uber, good luck when it shows up. Good luck when it shows up, because then you got to, like, which car is ours? Is that license plate LAX 5110? Like, is that what a Lexus Q30 is? Like, that's the big problem. And here's a little honest tidbit, guys. True story. Me and my wife, we went on our honeymoon to Disney, in 2022. And on the way home, we were at JFK Airport, and JFK Airport at the time, they were still using COVID restrictions. So my father could not pick us up at the airport. So we had to call an Uber. But the thing is, the way Uber was set up, like you had to stand like in a certain area and everything, and the Uber pulls up, and we didn't pay attention at the license plate. We were just looking at the year, the color, and the car, type of car it was. And the Uber pulls up, and we get in the car, and then, like we get on the highway, and the guy's going the wrong way. And we're like, wait, you're supposed to be going west. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, are you so-and-so? I'm like, no. We're like, no, we and I showed him the app. He's like, that's not me. And we got into the wrong Uber. So we ended up giving the guy $50 and he took us home. But I kid you not, I swear on Jesus Christ, my Uber rating right now is 4.99. And the reason why my Uber is not 5.00 is because the guy that was supposed to pick us up to take us home from JFK, coming back from my honeymoon, he fucking showed up at JFK and we were already gone. We got into the wrong Uber. Now, imagine that's just JFK. Now, think going to WrestleMania 33 and going outside and waiting for an Uber to go back to your hotel. Good luck. So, yeah, just to give you an idea how much fucking tickets prices have changed. It's insane. All right, let's wrap this up very quickly. John Cena opens up Raw, putting over MSG. Loud, thank you, Cena chants. It's very sad for me. Not that he's retiring. It's obviously we're getting older, but not only that, it's amazing to realize that, like I said, I'm going to start uploading our old episodes. It's going to be a very, very slow process because it's very expensive to do. I'm only allowed a certain amount of storage bandwidth to put every month. So it's the early days, the size of the files were very, very small. So that's why I could put up more now. But when we start getting into like 2008, 2009, then you realize it's going to be a very Patreon. It's different because our Patreon is so small, and I have a Dropbox, and everybody that's a member of our Patreon family could get every episode we've ever done. For anything we've ever done. Online, it's handled a little bit differently, but you realize that we covered John Cena's entire career. I mean, we even talk about him when he was still wrestling in California. It's crazy. Like, I have Blackheart hotline reports from 2001 or 2002. And, you just hear like some of the talk about Cena at the time. Never forget that Linda McMahon conference call. Something with the financials, and Linda McMahon in a conference call. And I have that audio somewhere. I just haven't been able to find it because I didn't label my files properly back in the day. Like, I would record something and I would just type random keys on my keyboard just to save a file. I'm sure a lot of you have done that before. You're recording something off the computer and it says save the file, and you don't even take the time to type like Linda conference call, WWE. You just like put like XA, PDP, and just like whatever the file saves. So now I got to go through like thousands of old files just to see what they are. And I got to do it very quietly because, what happens if I have a file, because I have video and I have audio and they're all coded weird. And that's all I need is, my wife to be laying next to me and she's watching a fucking Real Ghetto Housewives of Atlanta. And all of a sudden, like I click on a file thinking it's the Linda McMahon conference call and it's somebody pumping. Like it's an old porn video I like downloaded or something. So I got to like be like super careful in private. Like I don't use headphones. So I have that conference call when Linda McMahon said, we have two wrestlers in our farm system that we think John Cena and Randy Orton are going to be the future of this company. And it's, they had other people in the farm system. Don't get me wrong. but she focused only on John Cena and Randy Orton. And this was before they ever even got to the main roster. So, MSG's super loud tonight. And Cena's talking about how New York and MSG can make or break a career, which is sort of true. I mean, over the years, other than Sifi, I don't know anybody really that had their career ruined in Madison Square Garden. All right, you might listen. Back in the day, myself, Mad Zombie, Brian Damage, Timmy Arson, God rest his soul, the ECW Zombie, we went to a Garden show, and one of the dark matches was Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle, and the fans were booing it out of the building. It sucked. I think it was a tag match. I don't remember. I don't think it was one-on-one. It was a tag match, but Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar were definitely in the match, and it sucked. This was before they were ever on the main roster. Look how they turned out to be. So, they survived that. But Dominik comes out. He's pissed off. He wants a rematch. And I did laugh when the fans were chanting, "Shut the fuck up." And Netflix was censoring it briefly. And then John Cena's like, Netflix, before you censor it, they're chanting Choco Fun Cup. I know that there's Chocodiles. Anybody remember Chocodiles when we were kids? Holy shit, I haven't mentioned the word Chocodile in about 40 years. Chocodiles was the chocolate with the peanut butter inside, right? Chocodiles. Oh my God. I can't believe it. In almost 40 years, I have never ever, why would I ever say the word Chocodile? Why would you ever say it? Even if I was in Florida and I saw a black crocodile, we'd be like, oh, that's a Chocodile. No, Chocodiles were awesome back in the day. I don't think they've been around since the 1990s. But John Cena says, oh, no, they're chanting Choco Fun Cup instead of shut the fuck up. So Dom wants the rematch. Cena says, let's do it now. Dom says, no, it's not. It's on my terms. He wants it in San Diego at Survivor Series. And I think Dom is going to get cheered. Cena will get cheered absolutely as well, but Dom is going to get fucking cheered in San Diego. I wonder if we get a little sign of respect after the match is over. I know it was kind of old school Judgment Day today, and that was the setup, obviously, the match. Finn Balor and JD McDonough come out. Suddenly, they want to help Dom again. We get a little beatdown of Cena. Sheamus tries to make the save. Ray tries to make the save. Next thing you know, we got all six guys fighting, and that's the opening match for Raw. And we get John Cena, Rey Mysterio, and Sheamus defeated JD McDonough, Finn Balor, and Dominik Mysterio. Awesome match. Fun. Not overthinking it. It's not a 4-star match. It's not a 5-star match. It's not even a 3.5-star match. It's a fun match. Matches could be 3 stars and fun as fuck. It's like, I compare it to Spaceballs. Spaceballs is not a tremendously high-ranked movie, but I will watch it 1,000 times and love it every single time. I watch Beavis and Butthead. Beavis and Butthead still. They're not it's one of the greatest cartoons of all time. People say that shit sucks, but I fucking laugh my ass off. I'm entertained. I don't need something to be ranked 4 stars and 5 stars, to be entertained. I could watch something that's less. It's not always about work ethic. It's about entertainment value. And this was entertainment. You had a point where all 3 guys were doing the 10 beats. Cena was doing it to JD McDonough. Ray was doing it to Dom, obviously, and Sheamus was doing it to Finn Balor. We had a triple 5-knuckle shuffle, and one moment that I thought was so cool. I don't know if anybody else picked up on it. There was a moment where all 3 guys were going to do the 5-knuckle shuffle. John Cena was in the far left. Sheamus was in the middle, and Ray was on the right. And before they did it, Sheamus is like, no. He switched spots with John Cena, so John Cena would be front and center. And I thought that was so cool. And we ended up getting a double 619 to Finn Balor and JD McDonough. We had the Rey Mysterio hitting the 619, Sheamus hitting his move, and John Cena hitting the attitude adjustment on JD McDonough to get the win. And as they're going in the back, like Ray is like riding the shoulders of Cena. It was just, everything about it was just fun. I wish like these would happen like a little later in the show, because I know there's quite a few people that were there to see Cena more than anything. And after the first 20 minutes of Raw, that's it. It's done. But it was still entertaining as fuck, man. And Raw tonight was a legit sellout. They did ultimately sell out at Madison Square Garden. So we see a segment with Adam Pearce, Nick Aldis, and Paul Heyman. If you remember Wednesday's show, we were laughing at the fake news about Drew McIntyre. Another Meltzer wonder. He was suspended so he could go do movies, which we explained Wednesday why that was a lie. So what ends up happening is, you know what happened on SmackDown Friday. We don't need to recap that. So Paul Heyman found a loophole, so Drew is part of the Visions team. If you remember about 2 weeks ago, I said, I hope they don't use Drew McIntyre like they did with the fucking Judgment Day. Remember, he was the honorary member of the Judgment Day, and then he lost in the cage, and then it was like, okay, I'm done with the Judgment Day. Fuck you, Rhea, with the handshake. Don't give me a handshake. Give me a hand job, and then I'll stick around the Judgment Day. Remember that? Like, he shook hands with Rhea Ripley. It was like, okay, you just fill in a spot for Survivor Series, and once the match is over, Drew McIntyre goes his way. Kind of feels the same way now, doesn't it? So Paul Heyman says to Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce, you're pissed off at my fourth pick. Wait till you see what I have next. And Adam Pearce sees the contract, says, oh, this will be fun. And I think we all knew it was going to be Brock Lesnar. There was reports that Roman Reigns absolutely was going to be at the Garden tonight, as was AJ Lee. Everybody that we expected to be there was there. During a commercial break, Judgment Day got into it with a few people at ringside. We had an overload of Netflix wannabes. When you see Iglesias, Andrew Schultz, you see a couple of local New York sports players, you get a pop from the crowd. I tell you, man, if you watch Raw tonight, you know what I'm talking about. We've seen it before. They showed all of these fucking comedians, artists, hip hop, sports analysts, all these fucking people that have, and you see the red word Netflix after their name, and 90% of the time the crowd didn't react at all to them. And it was kind of funny because you see their reaction and they have a smile on their face, but they also have this look like, oh, nobody's cheering. This kind of sucks. But they're still smiling while they're kind of saying that. And then they're like, well, maybe they don't see me on the camera. And then they put the camera on Julio Iglesias, and everybody's like, ah. I mean, there was so many people tonight. They put this is so-and-so. He's got a show on Netflix. He's a sports analyst. He's the legendary. Oh, look, it's El Chico. And nobody's reacting. And they all have the same look on it. There was one guy tonight that tried to cover it up. He had a figure of Logan Paul and John Cena. And he had no reaction. So he's like, let me play with these figures instead. Not Julio Iglesias, the fat guy. Gabriel Iglesias. Sorry. Julio Iglesias. Oh, wait, is that to all the girls I've loved before? I hated that song, you stupid whore. I hope your finger gets caught on the door. Need I say more? We used to have a spoof of that song. It would be like, to all the girls I've fucked before, they never, ever came back for more. You dumb fucking whore. All right, I'm getting tired. I'm on overload. I'm exhausted. So during the commercial break, the Judgment Day get into it with Andrew Schultz and the new running back phenomenon, not for the New York Giants, Cam Skattebo, I think his name is. I hear that and I think of that song, I'm a Scat Man. Scat Man. I'm a Scat Man. They actually should do that when he comes out. Fucking hate that. So, Nikki Bella, they showed like a recap of last week. Jackie Redmond's going to interview Stephanie Vicaire, and I love Stephanie Vicaire, but when Jackie Redmond kept saying, in a few moments we're going to interview the women's show, I'm like, I know she's learning English, but it ain't that good, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting, and it didn't happen because Stephanie Vicaire, as she's coming down, Nikki Bella attacks her. She's on the rampway. And I'm sure everybody was looking where I was looking. You thought there was going to be a boob slip on Stephanie Vicaire's pop on her part. So Nikki gets on the mic and she's like, I came back to take back this division. Thank you for reminding me who the hell I am. And, you will give me a title shot. You will bow down to me. And do you understand, chica? And I'm like, Nikki, just talk Spanish. You both speak Spanish. She understands you. So then we get the backstage segment that confused me. Bayley and Lyra are in the back, and the Kabuki Warriors show up. They want Bayley as a partner, and Bayley's like, you think I forgot what you did 2 years ago? So nothing happens. Then Lyra's like all pumped up. You're normal again. And Bayley like looks at her and it's like, again, we talked about it like 2 weeks ago. This is like 9 weeks in a row that they're doing the same shit. Becky looks at Lyra. It's like, what are you, 5? Let's go, you idiot. And I thought, maybe these people were onto something, Bayley rejects the Kabuki Warriors. Kabuki Warriors beat the fuck out of Bayley. Lyra Vicaire makes the save. Oh, they're in WarGames. We didn't get that. As we mentioned earlier, Solo Sikoa defeated Dolph Ziggler with the Samoan Spike. Excellent match. Crowd loved it. You could tell Dolph Ziggler was very, very taken back by it. At the end of the day, this is the biggest, place to be. And this is where they made, their names. And to see that the fans cared, fans pop for surprises, no question. But you could see that this was more than that. I kind of wish that Dolph Ziggler would have won it. But I understand why it didn't. But still, fans would have loved it if he got that victory. Alexa Bliss is in the ring by herself, and she's upset at Charlotte. She's doing a recap, and she's complaining. And the fans start giving a what treatment to Alexa Bliss. And if you remember what I said about Becky Lynch months ago, Alexa Bliss does the same thing. How she combats the what chance is she'll say the never-ending sentence. She'll literally just keep talking and will not catch her breath because the minute you pause, the fans will be like, what? So if I read something right now, if I wrote, if I say Alexa complaining, what? Yeah, Charlotte, why did you do that? What? Blah, 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 blah. What? So she'll just say one sentence for 40 seconds and the fans are like, and they can't get it in because she keeps talking. So the heel Survivor Series team comes out and Asuka doing the baka baka baka. And I always think of Fozzie Bear when she does that. Fozzie Bear, remember? Baka 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 baka. She does that complaining, and Nia Jax is like, yeah, what she said. And they corner Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss wanted Charlotte to come out there. Charlotte doesn't come out there. Io and Rhea come out instead. They make the save. They start getting beat down. And then finally Charlotte comes out there. And I counted. Charlotte hit Lash Legend and Nia Jax with 18 kendo shots. And trust me, you get tired. You get tired from swinging at 18 times. But then there was a funny moment. Charlotte's on the team after all. Charlotte is consoling Alexa. And I think some people thought that Charlotte was going to turn on Alexa at that point, but she doesn't. And then it was just a funny moment. Charlotte is consoling Alexa on one side of the ring. And on the opposite side, Io Sky is standing right next to Rhea Ripley. And Io looks at Charlotte, sees Charlotte like kind of holding Alexa, like, are you okay? And Io grabs Rhea, like, oh, I have a friend too. And Charlotte just started laughing. And it was fucking funny. It really was funny. It was almost like Io was jealous that Charlotte was like hugging Alexa. If you go watch that spot, you'll know what I'm talking about. So then we get Becky Lynch losing the Intercontinental Championship to Maxxine Dupri. As I said earlier, AJ Lee did not interfere. Becky was about to undo the turnbuckle in the match. AJ Lee's music hits. Becky looks like she's seen a ghost. AJ is skipping down the ring, and I enjoyed the camera angle. There was a cameraman behind AJ Lee, and it looked like the cameraman was skipping also. I thought that he wasn't. He was actually just shaking the camera up and down. But it was good the way they did the visual. But she comes down to ringside, and Maxxine Dupri climbs the rope, and Becky has her back to Maxxine, and AJ Lee's just standing there and basically saying, like, you should pay attention in the match. And Becky turns around. Maxxine hits a body press off the top rope and gets the win. And again, I'm not going to repeat what I said earlier, but you could see the emotion on Maxxine Dupri's face. People will look back on it and say, and trust me, 10 years from now, unless something changes dramatically, 10 years from now, some prick asshole from the United Kingdom from what culture is going to post the list, the top 10 worst women's Intercontinental Champions of all time. And they'll put Maxxine Dupri in like the top 3 just to be a douchebag. Like I said earlier, I will repeat this. There's nothing wrong with once in a while an underdog getting a victory. No complaints here. So AJ Lee is suddenly good friends with Maxxine. I think a little bit of mental health has to do with it as well. Maxxine being bullied, not just by Becky Lynch, but by fans. And AJ Lee's dealt with a lot of bullying, and, they kind of clicked, and you read between the lines. And Maxxine, later in a promo says she finally feels like she belongs. Then, you got Otis and Tozawa show up, and, they pretty much ruin it. And Maxxine Dupri, rude fucking bitch. Rude bitch, if we're being honest. She owes all this to AJ Lee. Oh, my God. You helped me. You mentored me. You did this. Oh, my God. And then all of a sudden, as they're standing there, and AJ Lee's like, thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Otis shows up like the Kool-Aid blimp with Tozawa. And Maxxine walks off with them. Maxxine used to be like, okay, bye. You're like, oh, I'll talk to you later. We'll go have a coffee. Like, she just like walks off. And AJ Lee's like, you fucking bitch. She wasn't, but if that was me, I would be like, not even a thing. She just walks off. Fucking dumb blonde. I say that jokingly. So Jackie Redmond is standing there with AJ Lee, and Jackie's like, are you going to stick around this time? Because we haven't seen her since Garbage Palooza. And then we get the Acme Insta feud. Rhea Ripley shows up. No history with AJ Lee. And, Rhea Ripley's like, oh, AJ, do you have a second? Let's chat. And AJ Lee walks off, and you're like, okay, now we get it. AJ Lee's going to be in Survivor Series. And that's going to piss off Becky Lynch. And Becky's like, if she's in Survivor Series, I'm in Survivor Series too. So now we have our 5-on-5. So then we get the finish. You get the Vision come down to ringside. Paul Heyman gets on the mic, brings up how he walked the Dangerous Alliance, Samoan SWAT team, the Bloodline, down for WarGames over the years. And he feels that this is the greatest group of ever assembled for WarGames. CM Punk's music hits. Then you get the Usos, their music hits, and then Cody's music hits. You know what I like tonight? Very interesting. Not saying that anybody listens to our shows from there. I know a few people do, but not the ones who matter, I think. But I think a lot of you out there also said this too. WWE one way they're going to help repair Jey Uso is not be as gimmicky. And I thought it was a win to have Jey Uso. I have no issue with him coming down from the crowd with Jimmy and doing the yeet stuff, but he wore just a black tank top tonight. And he had the glasses, but he ended up tossing them into the crowd. Like, Jey Uso was a lot less gimmicky tonight. And that's going to help. That's going to help. I think it was too much of the charismatic comedy, goofy, lighthearted, and we brought it up 2 weeks ago. He's literally cutting the same promos he did 5 years ago. The only difference was 5 years ago it was Thunderdome. So when he was cutting that stuff, you couldn't have the fans go, what? WWE dictated from the soundboard what we were going to hear. Just like when we talked about it on the History Show this week. This is the anniversary of Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship off of Randy Orton right before Survivor Series on a Raw. And it was Thunderdome. And literally, WWE actually piped in, this is awesome. And nobody was saying that. But they could dictate what was coming across on the TV. So I loved how Jey Uso was very, very muted tonight. But Cody comes out there, and then we get a brawl. And then just as we expected, I think everybody and their mother knew this was happening. Brock Lesnar's music hits. He comes out there. If we're being honest, WrestleNomics and the Grant family were not in attendance tonight because everybody was losing their shit. Everybody thought it was awesome. Nobody was fucking, angry about, you almost did this. You almost flew here. You almost slept with her. You almost did this. Yeah, and I've almost strangled people over the years, and I've almost wanted to hit someone with my car. And I've almost taken money, that didn't belong to me. And I almost thought about this. And I almost ain't nothing. It's what you do is what. So anyway, Brock comes out there, get a brawl. He's suplexing the shit out of CM Punk. And I thought that was funny because everybody disappeared. I'm like, was there like a food cart outside or something? Like everybody fucking disappeared. Other than Paul Heyman. Then Roman's music hits. And everybody knew Roman was coming out there. I don't want to see you till Christmas. Unless there's a Christmas, unless we're in Samoan Christmas, unless November 17th is Samoan Christmas. Maybe Rikishi could shed light on that. Christmas came early for all of us too. Because Roman comes out there and we got a full-fledged brawl. And now our Survivor Series teams are set. Just like that. So, very quickly, next week we have, I almost forgot. Holy shit, I did forget one match. Oh my God, I am so sorry. Javon Evans and Gunther. How the fuck did I forget about that match? I was a little bit perplexed about this match. It was awesome. Javon Evans, I tell you, man, you look at Braun Breaker, you look at Dominik Mysterio, you look at Javon Evans, and you look at some of the wrestlers in NXT, they definitely have a group that are going to be very, very high in the food chain in the future. Will they be on the level of some of our main eventers that we've seen over recent years? Probably not, but still, WWE has a bright, bright, bright future for several stars. I don't know if Javon Evans should have had that much offense on Gunther. I thought it was awesome when they showed Gunther at the beginning of Raw entering the building. He got a massive pop from the crowd. Crowd was happy to see him back. They don't realize that he's going to beat the fuck out of Cena in December, but this was an awesome match. I mean, Javon Evans gave a hell of a lot more offense than I thought that he would. One side of me thinks that Gunther should have destroyed him. I know some people will be like, oh my God, how could you do that to Javon Evans? Well, they did that to others who were still part of NXT. But it was much more competitive than I thought it would be. Then I started thinking halfway through the match, you know what? They're probably prepping us for Saturday night's main event because we are going to see some NXT stars get some good matches on Saturday night's main event, and they want it to be competitive. And yes, I agree. Having Gunther's older theme was pretty cool. And when I first heard it, I was like, something sounds a little different. But was it necessary? I mean, I kind of like Gunther's current music. You can't go wrong with either one. I think we agree on that. You can't go wrong in either one. But Gunther does prevail on Javon Evans. Crowd loved it. I thought it was a tremendous match. I wouldn't have a problem with seeing a rematch, but unfortunately, it's not happening because next week, Gunther will be wrestling again. Gunther next week will take on the winner of Carmelo Hayes and Bronson Reed, which I believe happens this Friday on SmackDown. Also next week, Solo Sikoa will take on the winner of Penta and Finn Balor. So that's going to be interesting. I tell you, if we got Bronson Reed and Gunther, that would be pretty fucking sweet, man. That would be really fucking interesting. Solo, I'd rather see him face Finn, to be honest with you. And then next week we get the WarGames advantage match on the men's side. The women, I think, is the following week. So that is what we have in line. Now, keep in mind, guys, 4 other men that are in this tournament still, but they have not set up matches yet. Jey Uso, LA Knight, Sheamus, and Rusev. So keep in mind that we're probably going to get the fucking Rusev-Sheamus match, and it is very possible that we could end up with either Sheamus, Jey Uso, maybe even possibly LA Knight fighting Gunther in the final. I think it's going to be one of those 3. My gut feeling is we'll probably see Sheamus advance against Rusev. And then, remember, whoever wrestles has to wrestle 4 times. We broke that down a couple of weeks. I believe it's 4 times. So Sheamus would probably pass Rusev, lose to Gunther, and then that's it. So Gunther would beat Javon Evans, would beat either Carmelo Hayes and Bronson Reed next week. He would beat Sheamus, and then I think you have to beat one other person. But bottom line is, it's going to be Gunther when everything's said and done. So just to wrap this up, the current lineup for Survivor Series, we have Stephanie Vaquer defending the Women's World Championship against Nikki Bella. And I'm not saying this to be a wise ass, but that will be the piss break match. That will be the match that follows something huge. And honestly, if you look at the other matches, everything on there is huge. They will probably have to follow one of the WarGames matches. If I'm WWE, you probably have to have Stephanie Vaquer and Nikki Bella follow John Cena and Dominik Mysterio, which is kind of funny when you think about it because of Cena and Nikki Bella. But I don't think you should have a women's match follow a women's match. And I know what some people are going to say, well, we have men's matches follow men's WarGames matches every time. I get it. But I think this time around, and the men's WarGames match is absolutely closing the show. So I personally think you're going to probably have, I don't know, do you split up the WarGames matches? I would have the women's WarGames match open up Survivor Series. Then you can have John Cena and Dominik Mysterio as the second. Then you could have Stephanie Vaquer and Nikki Bella as the third. And then the men's WarGames as the final. So right now your card is Stephanie Vaquer defending the Women's World Championship against Nikki Bella. John Cena will defend the Intercontinental Championship against Dominik Mysterio. WarGames match will be Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Alexa Bliss, and Charlotte Flair. We have one more name that's to be announced, but it's probably going to be AJ Lee versus Nia Jax, Last Legend, the Kabuki Warriors, and probably Becky Lynch. AJ Lee will be announced first. Becky Lynch will be announced next. And then on the men's WarGames, we have CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, and the Usos taking on Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Brock Lesnar, Drew McIntyre, and Logan Paul. And I got to be totally honest with you. Not even saying this because I'm in the Survivor Series spirit. That men's WarGames lineup, although put together almost last minute, that is pretty fucking sweet, man. To me, it is much better than what everybody was originally trying to play off to us. Nothing against Jacob Fatu. There's many years for Jacob Fatu to shine. But I didn't want another fucking bloodline team. I don't think LA Knight should be in it because LA Knight has been designated more to lose lately than anything else. And Austin Theory, I tell you, I'd be a little concerned for Austin Theory right now because unless he interferes after this Survivor Series match, he's a perfect candidate for the Vision. The Vision means tomorrow, the future. He's perfect for that. So my hunch is that WWE felt Drew McIntyre in WarGames is much, much bigger and better to have an Austin Theory in it. I think once Drew McIntyre is done with WarGames, just like the Judgment Day, Drew McIntyre will go his separate way, and that will leave open a spot for maybe Austin Theory. Remember, the Vision doesn't have to be 5 people after Survivor Series. So Brock Lesnar could put his tail between his legs and go back to, his home and not wrestle that much afterwards. And the Vision can end up being Austin Theory, Braun Breaker, Logan Paul, and Bronson Reed. And that's how we finished the show. So we ended up doing 2.5 hours. I'm kind of happy. Well, I am happy, obviously. I'm just tired. I'm a little wired right now. But I'm happy that we were able to labor through it because I tell you, I came home Friday night and shit hurt. And then Saturday morning I got up and it hurt even more. And then last night I was like, I want to do the sit down, but I just wasn't used to sitting up all that much. And, I'm not going to lie. I took a painkiller like an hour before we went live. So that probably helped a little bit too, but I got to get my ass to bed because it's almost 1:00 in the morning here. I still got to type a synopsis. I didn't even start the synopsis yet. But I want to thank everybody for spending a little bit of your Monday. And if you catch us on a replay, whenever you tune in, it is very much appreciated. Keep supporting the website, wrestling-news.com. Keep downloading all the shows because that keeps us relevant in the stats. It's very, very cool to pop on Spotify and Apple and see that we're still in the top 30. And like I said, we're going to start uploading some retro episodes. Those are going to be starting this week. It'll be a couple of months every month. There'll be enough. Then we got to start figuring out what are we doing in 2026. History show will be completed. We got to start working on a schedule for 2026. Definitely don't want to have it overloaded, but we're definitely going to add more, and we're definitely going to do it on some days and times that do not conflict with other people's shows. So I'm starting to think about some ideas. I'll share it with everybody shortly, and then we'll figure it out. And then we continue. So, guys, it's been fun. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Happy to be back. Feels like I've been gone for so long, and it's only been since Wednesday, but definitely check out the history show. Trust me, just check out the first 2 minutes of it. Or if you want the first 5 minutes, Mae Young calling Lay Cool a bunch of sluts. I think you'll really enjoy that episode. And if you notice, I always keep a little bit of the older episodes in there as well. Last week, during a week, I actually went back more than that. I went back about 16 years and redid a whole bunch of old content because I just wanted to add more to it. I think this week has a shitload of funny stuff in it. That's probably what stands out more than anything. But check it out, enjoy, and I'll catch you all again later this week. So be well, and I'll talk to you all again soon. Have a good one, everybody.